is this? Tabletop Island, huh? Let's see what this is all about.
Blue turn go. You'll never stop me. Ha 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 ha.
Hey, Volcar, I know you're not gonna let that computer talk to us like that.
You have 15 minutes left before I destroy you.
Okay, buddy, we've been here for a minute now. Can we hurry up? What's going on?
10 minutes before I destroy you.
Yo, Volcar, can you hurry up? I think this thing's cheating. There's no way it's been 5 minutes already.
You'll never stop me. Ha 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 ha.
I got one key, Volcar. You only got two options. You can either go there or there. It's not that hard.
5 minutes till I destroy.
Bro, can you shut up? You see I'm talking here. My guy trying to think, and he can't think with all three lines that you know, okay?
Sorry, blue player. It's just what I'm programmed to say. Didn't mean to overstep.
It's cool. Finally, Volcar. Yes.
Blue player, nothing found.
Really, Volcar? I'm the one in trouble, and you can't handle this? Wow, just walk away.
Welcome to Tabletop Island. I'm Bernardo, your host, and today we're going to be taking a look at the vintage board game, Omega Virus. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, the box is freaking huge here. This game came out in 1992. Whoa, this is a cool game. So it is an electronic board game. I actually found out that Restoration Games has a license to potentially be restoring this game, so we'll see how that goes. But let me first talk a little bit about the game. So first, I had avoided this game for a very long time. Now, why is that? Because everybody had it, everybody hyped it up, and I don't know, I got caught up in the idea of finding the newest rare game. I decided to take a step back and get some of the ones that I ended up missing along the ways that were really popular and ones people were really advocating for. Both Matt, Luke, and Norm really advocated for this game, and I was like, fine, you know what, I got a pretty decent deal for it. I'll take the plunge, I'll play it. When I got it, I had it sitting there for a while, and I was like, I just don't have motivation to play it. I forced myself to play it, sat down, learned all the rules, and we had a blast. Let's first take a look at the components. First off, this board looks absolutely amazing. People talked about the artwork and said, whoa, this looks so cool. And I would look at the box and I'd be like, it looks all right. But when you look at it up close, it looks absolutely stunning. You can tell it's painted. Even when you open up the box, you'll see this little piece inside that has this really nice artwork and just the amount of detail they put into it. They didn't need to do that. In fact, look, it shows all the stats of all the parts and stuff. This has no correlation with the game. They did not need it, but I'm glad they did because it looks amazing. Then you have the rule book, which is separate to the assembly kind of sheet here that you got. The assembly sheet just shows you kind of how to put the batteries in the electronic piece, but the rules here is almost, it's a straight up comic book. It looks amazing. Just the design and detail and care they put into this game is just absolutely astonishing, and there's just so much going for it. So in terms of the game itself, you have this electronic component in the middle. We'll get to that in a minute. You have this board which kind of has these flap components, which you'll understand in a moment once I start to explain the game a bit here. You'll start to set up all of the key cards in the correct slots with all of the probes kind of stuck in there, which are like little mini robots that you get. You put each character at their home base to start, and you each get a green key card, which allows you to move in the color rooms that are designed. Now you get 3 movement. What you get to decide is you don't have to go into a room if you don't want to, but you can. If you decide to stop, you'll push the pass button onto the game itself. Again, we'll get there. But the key cards determine which rooms you can go into. Once you have the board set up, which by the way looks amazing, I can't explain this enough. The design is just well cared for, and the electronic components are equally matched. Let's take a look at this here. Once you begin and it says your color, you're going to put in your own kind of secret combination, which is your secret code. It's going to be a 2-digit code. It's between 0, 1, and 2. You want to make sure it's a secret. You're going to write it on the back of your sheet, because each player gets their own player sheet, which you're going to have to track which rooms you've been in. It's going to be important, I promise, but we'll get there. So once you have in your secret code, during each one of your turns, they are going to shout out a code, a 2-digit code. If that ends up being your code on your turn, mind you, that's going to be the room the virus is in. So you'll have to notate that on your sheet with a V, because it'll be important that once you get all the requirements to defeat the virus, you need to go back to that room to do so. And let me tell you, it will say your code on other players' turns, so pay attention. That's not going to have any effect on you. So if you hear your code on, let's say, the opposing player's turn, don't write V on that room, because it's not the virus. It's trying to throw you off. So make sure you only hear the code on your room, because that'll be where the virus is at. Now, how you defeat the virus. You're moving around to each room, and the key card you have will determine which rooms you can go into. So in the beginning, you can only go to green. But once you enter a room, again, you can only enter a room that you have a key card for. You're going to use the keypad onto the electronic piece in the center to put in the code of the room that you have, which is a 3-digit code. Then the computer will explain if you found anything, whether it's another key card or one of the 3 AVDs that's important to win the game. Now, those 3 AVDs can be either the red Negatron, the yellow decoder, or the blue disruptor. Once you have all 3 of those, which clip onto your backpack, which is super cool, again, little pieces that didn't really need to happen that way, but they look amazing, and I'm super glad that they did, because just, again, the detail on the components is just phenomenal. Even the player pieces have just such nice detail. It reminds me of something.
Volcar, you're right. It looks just like Master Chief. Holy crap. How didn't I see that before?
And once you go through each room and you eventually have all 3 AVDs, you need to go back to where the virus is. Now, if you don't know where it is, you need to keep exploring the rooms that you haven't been to, which is why the checkoff sheet is important. You want to mention whether or not you found something with a check mark in that room, or a minus if you didn't find anything. Why this is important? 1, so you don't go back into those rooms. And knowing the difference between a room you've been in that has something and doesn't is going to be the defactor if you end up losing items. How you lose items. Sometimes in certain rooms, the virus can attack you, and it'll say you have, let's say, 2 shields. 2 shields means you get 1 combination, 2 of any of the keypad, either numbers or the R there. So there's 0, 1, 2, and R. So you can hit any 2 of those numbers, and it will say you've blocked it if you've hit the 1 number that they have. Sometimes it'll be 1 and 4, so it'll be absolute luck, and the chances are very low. So if you don't end up hitting it, it'll say you lose blue key card, or you lose the disruptor. So it's situations where you end up losing pieces that knowing where you ended up getting pieces is going to be really important. For example, you don't need to know specifically where you got the blue key card. However, if you know where you got any items, the chances are when you lose an item, you can go back to that room and still obtain something that you've lost, which is super important and super crucial, especially if you need to stay as close to the virus as you can, because you're getting closer and closer to winning. And once you go into the spot with all 3 AVDs where the virus is, it will have you punch in a code. It'll say 3 shields or something along those, and you'll put in any number of things that it says there, and that will determine whether or not you defeat the virus. I believe for the final boss, you only hit 1 button, which is going to be important because it's 1 and 4. So that 1 button will count. So that'll mean if you don't destroy them on that turn, it's the other player's turns, and they still have a chance to defeat it. In fact, it ended up being one game where someone was there first with all the pieces, and we ended up at the end of the game all being there, and they still ended up winning because they hit the last button there. But it's super important. The other thing too, while you're moving along through the path, the thing that makes it a lot quicker is the probe. The probe is your own little personal robot. He can move in the direction completely opposite to you. Now, you can only move to spots that are connecting via kind of the grid that they have there, but the probe can move across the grid and stop at an extreme. So it doesn't get just 3 movement. It can move, let's say there's 4 spots that it jumps past to get to the next room. So it can go all the way up to the next room, keeping in mind you still have to have the key card for it to enter that room. Much like your movement with your player, if it doesn't end up going into a room and it stops on, let's say, one of the little grid spots, or a room that you've already been in and there was nothing in there, you can push on pass and that'll end your turn. Now, the game itself is timed, and that does depend on the difficulty level that you play. which is super crucial. So for 4 players, there's kind of a skill sheet. There's the longest time up to the shortest time. Shortest time being 10 minutes. The longest time is about 35 minutes, and that's for a 4-player game, which is where I started when I initially played. Then I ended up kind of bringing it down a little bit because I was like, okay, we understand it enough to where we can at least cut off 10 minutes there, which it went from 35 to 25, which made all the difference. And in fact, we lost the first game, but the second game we won. And the more difficult that it gets, the more ruthless the game becomes. Now, let me explain to you, this game constantly taunts you. It'll say, red player, you'll never catch me, or your time is up, must destroy green player. And it constantly taunts you and basically says that you're not going to defeat me, you suck. And then it'll keep kind of patronizing you when you're not going fast enough. Like, are you going to go yet? You must hurry before you can't defeat me. It is your turn. You should keep going and stuff like that, which can get really annoying. And if other people are getting frustrated with you too, it gets even more amplified. But the game is so fun, and there's just so much interesting elements with this electronic component that keeps track of the game for 4 different players, keeps track of what's in what room, and it constantly changes. So not every one game will be the same. The virus will move each game you play, which is absolutely mind-blowing and just, oh, it's just so satisfying. There is another element of the game here where you can battle each other. This basically means if you end up on another spot with an opponent, you can fight them to try to get their pieces so you can steal stuff from them. And the game will tell you what you steal from them, which is kind of ruthless. So while you're all working together to defeat the virus, the person who defeats the virus wins the game. Now, you can destroy and kind of set people back, which sounds kind of, I don't know, like, I'm not a big fan of that idea. Now, again, if I've gotten a good time and I've played this in abundance of time with that specific group, then maybe I'll incorporate battling a little bit just to kind of get that take that element. But I don't really enjoy that, and I don't think it elevates the game at all. I do recommend to when you're first starting off the game, though, to just avoid that rule altogether. It's already a lot to explain to people, and even though it's a very easy game to play, and I've explained it basically in this video, there's still just a lot of nuances and just a whole lot of information they have to understand, and the game's going to keep rushing them, which might frustrate them just a little bit. And much like I was saying with the difficulty, the more I guess the lower time that you play, the more ruthless this becomes. For example, when we played in the medium level, out of nowhere, we swore we were pushing some button incorrectly by accident. Our probe was just being destroyed. That's another thing the virus can do at any point in time in a battle. If you lose, it can say, destroy your probe, which you probably want to find it again if you don't have all of the AVDs, because that's pretty crucial if you still have a lot of ground to cover, which is nice to separate them entirely so you cover 2 separate sides of the board. One other piece too is as you end up pacing through the game and you're down to, let's say, the last 5 minutes or whatever, the board itself starts to destroy. So those little flat panels that you have for each side, for each wing that you own, it can be completely shut down. Obviously, the one that has the virus won't be shut down, but chances are it's a bit too late if you're down to the last one, which it always does get down to the last one at the end of the game. But if you don't have everything you need, the time is of the essence and you'll probably lose, which is unfortunate, but still makes you want to play again because it's hard enough to make you feel like it's a challenge to keep going for it, but it's not too hard to where you get too frustrated and you don't feel like you had the opportunity to win. But this game is fantastic. I couldn't believe that it took me so long to get this to the table, so thank you guys for kind of advocating for this game. I am so happy to have this in my collection and I highly recommend it. I will say the price point is a bit high, but compared to a lot of the other expensive vintage board games, this one actually seems worth the price because you get a fantastic electronic element that keeps track of the game. You get components that are just going to last you a lifetime. Again, remember with electronic components that use batteries, make sure you remove the batteries after each play so you don't end up having leakage and corrosion, because those are the things that destroyed games in this era from vintage Yeah, and even still with electronics, just remove the batteries. It's a good idea, I promise. Again, it is an expensive game, so I understand if this doesn't meet the price point you're willing to pay. I will just say that if there's any game out there that has a higher price point, this is one that I would highly recommend, and I wouldn't think twice about it. Even Tornado Rex being my favorite vintage board game, it doesn't have components to justify the price point. This one does. But that's honestly all I have for you guys today. If you are interested in notifications, there is a bell up there somewhere. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I do appreciate any feedback. I'm trying to make these videos more and more outrageous, and with your guys' help, I have been doing so. Monday, regular board game reviews. Wednesday, weekly update / talks, and then on Fridays, my vintage board game reviews. That is all I have for you guys today. I will see you guys next time.